You can go. There we go. All right, so I'm Dominique. I'm the director of CAS and also the SEED instructor this semester. Today we're going to talk about the federal accessibility mandate on web accessibility. I will be honest, it's not the most exciting topic. I tried not to make it so dry for you all. So first things first, we actually have till April 2026, according to the federal government, to meet these guidelines. I do know that Triton has a more progressive deadline. But we have till, I think it's April 23rd, 2026. These standards are meant to be proactive approach, so accessibility is embedded for everyone, not just individuals with disabilities. So basically, I'm going to give you an overview of them. And to be honest, this could be like a week-long, 40-hour presentation. So I tried to not go too technical on it, but I will give you like high points. And I have lots of resources from other universities who have all whole digital accessibility teams who are doing this for campuses, who have some great resources online. I know faculty have asked me some very specific questions that I can't answer. So these are some resources I've gotten from peers at other universities. So one question I've been asked is, well, we have accommodations. Why do we have to do this? First of all, this isn't a CAS decision mandate, federal government. Accessibility is what we should all expect when we go somewhere, take a class, engage with anyone. We shouldn't always have to ask for an accommodation or have something be made accessible. Accommodations are more specific for the individuals who maybe need a modification. So an example I will give is extended time on test. That, yes, that is an accommodation, but I also know that there are faculty and instructors who give all their exams on time to make it fully accessible for all students. Now, I'm not saying get rid of time tests. I just want to make that very clear. Just give it as an example. So there will still be students who need accommodations when web accessibility is, I would say, fully embraced, but there are still accommodations like test read aloud, excused medical absences, things like that, that we will still need to be able to provide students. So it's the main difference. All right, so what is WCAG? So this is international. It is a group of web developers. So this is people who created WCAG are all, I'm gonna say tech people. So they came up with these different standards that should be used by everyone, including individuals with disabilities. So W3C is the consortium that put out the guidelines that government is following. Again, developers, designers, content creators, organizations. I know I've had some of the individuals ask, why are we doing this? Every college university is doing this, park districts, different city governments. So it's not just education. One reason why we are focusing on it so much is because faculty, instructors, you all create your courses. Even if it's a third party, it still has to be accessible. So we have to do our own due diligence to make sure everything we're wanting students to access is fully accessible. So again, why it's important. So specifically digital content, websites, applications, just so it really makes it easier for everyone. A great example is automatic door openers. Yes, they were created specifically for individuals with disabilities, but I think we've all benefited if you're carrying groceries, had a broken leg, pushing a stroller, something we've all benefited from. Digital accessibility also benefits individuals who maybe have temporary disabilities. So again, broken arm. I know we have some students who have photosensitivity, didn't want to do accommodations through our office, but they, have to dim and brighten their screens and do different things. And then also age-related conditions. So basically, we're making sure everyone, regardless of your abilities, can access and engage with our content, but also, speaking of strategic plans, the student success goals. So making sure we're cultivating an excellent environment experience for our students. All right. Here's the very technical part of this. So WCAG has 4 core principles. There's like 13 guidelines and 86 specific criteria. I'm not going to go through all 86. I will go over these because these are kind of the overall umbrella. So first of all, content has to be perceivable. So color contrast, font size, captioning, text alternatives. A great example of that, which I think comes up later, is images. I know we like to have pictures and pretty things to look at, but for our students with visual impairments, they don't know what those images are. So operable, being able to kind of interface and navigate the content. So we do have students on campus who cannot use a mouse. They have to rely on the tab bar and the space bar, and they do have difficulty sometimes navigating Blackboard and other systems because they aren't the way it's been set up. Enough time to read information, so that goes back to like setting deadlines or timelines. Clear navigation. No flashing animation. I know most people think that's related to seizures, but that's also can be individuals who have processing disorders and ADHD are impacted by a lot of flashing lights. Understandable. Make sure the information is clear and predictable. Very simple language. Don't try to make it very flowery and overwhelming. But use consistent language throughout. And then the last one, robust, which is more about making sure the content can be read by screen readers and different technology. There are a variety of screen readers out there. We just happen to have Kurzweil 3000 that anyone on campus can currently use, not just students connected to CAS. But there's also some free ones like NVDA, which we've used for testing. I know the Testing Center uses. JAWS, which is probably the most famous one. So just a couple different ones. And a lot of the assistive tech that CAS does use, those companies are making changes to even be more compatible with this. All right. The very basic stuff. So alternative text for images. So like I said, images can be very difficult for some of our students to access. A great example is we do have students with vision impairments. I have sat in classes with them, and I've had instructors say, all right, so look at this image on the screen and never describe it. So the student doesn't know what it is. So then I have to lean over and be like, it's a picture of a house in the middle of a field full of corn, and there's a farmer. Like, I have to describe it what it is. But if the student is accessing the PowerPoint at home or the presentation, hopefully there's alt text that describes the photo, and it's a descriptive alt text. I've seen some that just say photo, house, field. That doesn't really tell the student anything. Also, the image should be related to the content. It can't just be an image because you want an image. Avoid being vague. Again, key details, relevant it to the content. Use of color. I kept this a very basic presentation. It's a white background and there's no images in it whatsoever. I know people have different opinions on different colors. I know I've seen presentations that have a lot of blues in them, which some students I know have a hard time differentiating with black. So if you're going to color code something, make sure you also label it. So a good example are pie charts. So if you're putting up a pie chart with 5 or 6 different colors, you also need to put a description next to it, which I think many people do, because the screen reader can read what's around the pie chart in the alt text. But if you just put a pie chart and no description, they're just going to think maybe it's a circle. And if they're colorblind or visually impaired, they may not realize you're trying to represent a couple different things. Descriptive links. You can't just put the word link or click here. You have to put what it is. I have some examples at the end. Like I have a whole bunch of resources for you all. Literally is the name of the website of what it is. All right, cool. Readability. Avoid jargon. I also know we like to use abbreviations. So a perfect example is CAS. It's a little easier than Center for Access and Accommodative Services. But screen readers will read CAS as CAAS. Doesn't know what CAS is. A lot of times it will like read it and just keep going, and the student will not realize it's meant to be its own set like term or example of something. Use headings and bullet points. I will say Tuan Dean is doing a presentation on accessibility in your courses and gives a great overview of using headings and bullets. Microsoft has some great accessibility features. I have a link to it in the presentation as well. So instead of like just bolding something to make it separate, use a header, because then the screen reader can read what is coming next. Also, font size, please don't go below 12. But even making it too large can be hard to read. So there's like a sweet spot of 12, maybe 14, depending on who you ask. Tables, graphs, and charts. Again, if you're using it for data, that's fine. Just also make sure you can describe what is in that chart or graph with clear headings and captions. I know I have students who are in math classes who I have to explain when they take a test. If they have tests read aloud, one of our staff members sits in the room with them and goes, all right, there's a chart, 4 columns up and down, 4 columns left and right. In the first box, we have to sit there and explain what this looks like. I don't think we do it very well, to be honest, because we're visual people and we know what we're looking at. But for individuals who have vision impairments, any detail you can get to describe the graph will be helpful. And captioning and audio description. Technically, we should have captioning on right now, and we don't. So don't hold that against me. It should have the name of the speaker. Hopefully, it's synchronized with the voice, and there's not a delay in the captioning. I know sometimes that can be related to Wi-Fi issues. And again, describe any visual elements. So again, the house and the cornfield, the farmer, whatever it was. So those are the basic things that are kind of easy, I would say, or quickest to make sure you're making information digitally accessible. Depending on how instructors structure your classes, I know there's way more to this, and it may not be as easy. So resources. So you all will get a copy of the PowerPoint. So we have the accessibility open lab hours that are offered next door that you can do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like I said, Tuan Dean does a presentation on accessibility in your class. I sat through it last week. It was great to hear from a faculty member what they're doing. It's also helpful for CAS to know so we can support you all if a student comes to us and we know what you're doing. But more importantly, the next 3 are all, I think, more hands-on looking at what you're doing with our instructional designer, Christina, and with Nicole. Fortunately, Nicole couldn't be here today. We were supposed to present together. So if you're wanting more hands-on, I would say do this open lab or do the bottom 3. Some are offered more than once. But more importantly, some resources you could start using today if you don't know about them. Microsoft Accessibility, I use it all the time to check every Word document, PowerPoint item we send out of our office. And we do make mistakes. There are times it's not compliant, so we change it. Adobe, I think we've all heard how PDF isn't the most user-friendly for digital accessibility, but it can be. I'll give a great example. The National Healthcare Association, where if a student's getting an EKG certificate here, that's who they take their test through. All of their proctor manuals are not digitally accessible. I was trying to proctor a test last night, and I couldn't click on one single link to open anything they needed me to open. And they had 3 different versions of the manual, so I didn't know which one was right. So they have some resources, and they have a series of short videos you can watch, and they'll walk you through it. This last one, let's see if I can actually, Web Accessibility in Mind, it's WebAIM. It has some different resources, and they will connect it back to one of those 86 guidelines. But you can also, they have a lot of web accessibility checkers that are free. There are some out there you have to pay for, but they have some good free ones. And that's usually the main site I've been going to make sure something is accessible. Kind of easy. But if you want to know what our peers are doing at other institutions, these are just 5 of the ones I have come across, or I know people at these institutions. A lot of them have teams that they put in place over the last 2 years to work on digital accessibility. So you won't be able to do like their trainings for their staff, but some of them have YouTube videos, a lot of handouts on how to make something accessible. Most of them are specifically aimed at faculty for your courses. But they give some good examples. I did put 2 kind of local in case you knew someone at those institutions and wanted some extra information. But most schools, like Ohio State has a whole digital accessibility team. So a lot of universities have a whole team helping their staff. We can benefit from their work and make our lives easier. So I'm all for using free stuff. There's also a group through the Association of Higher Education and Disabilities, which is AHEAD, which is the Disability Services Consortium. They have a technology conference every year. I think it's in November. But last year I got access to the recordings. So if anyone wants to watch any recordings on digital accessibility, they have some great ones available. All they ask is that not more than 25 people log in at one time. But I did get access if anybody would like those, and I can send out those as well. So I know I talked really fast, but I will start taking your questions now. I'm also very conscious of time. So who has a question? Yes.
I have 2 questions. Number one, in Microsoft Word, you had mentioned that before as an accessibility checker. I've noticed that I have a lot of documents that say no issues. And then when I put them in Blackboard,